Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ceci Truman Live. This show will be starting in just a few moments, so stay tuned. And if you're seeing this on social media, please like, share, and follow. For more information, go to trumanforcongress.com. This show is brought to you by Ceci Truman. Here's Ceci.
Hello, everyone. Today is February the 18th, and we are flying through the month of February. Thank you for joining us. Today is a very important topic. We are going to be speaking with Meagan McCarthy, and she is a former sheriff deputy who was assaulted and almost killed in the line of fire. She's going to tell her story. She's also a mother of 3 beautiful children. She's a wife of a husband who also works for the San Bernardino Sheriff Department. And so this is a family of service. And I would love to welcome Meagan McCarthy. Please join us.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, Meagan. Thank you for coming and sharing your story with us. It's a very riveting story, and it's a very somber day today. Actually, we have lost more servicemen in the line of fire, and this is becoming. We are becoming a land of lawlessness, where there are no consequences for the criminals, and we have to do something to change this. And we're going to talk about what the everyday person can do to get engaged and activated, because there is a plan to minimize this lawlessness. And, that is our job. We are to push back against the evil tide. So I would like to share with the audience a video clip that's going to kind of show a visual of what happened to you 4 years ago, September the 4th. Go ahead and roll that clip.
A deputy in a violent struggle with a man in Victorville. Then the suspect grabbed her gun and fired at her as she ran.
Shocking verdict. A local man found not guilty of attempted murder.
The deputy appears on camera. It's a life and death struggle. She's attacked by a man who seems crazed and out of control, and he gets her gun.
The male suspect became combative, and there was an assault that occurred between the deputy and the suspect. The suspect struck the deputy. It was a violent attack, struck her multiple times.
Despite strong video evidence, a jury acquitted a man accused of beating and shooting at a San Bernardino County Sheriff deputy back in 2019.
One time I saw him with a baseball bat just beating the crap out of these street signs. Really? Yeah, so he's to me, he doesn't look all there.
She did look pretty shaken up about it. I would have been the same way if I was in her shoes. She's absolutely courageous. And if anybody says anything differently, in my opinion, they're wrong. She's still an officer that was shot at, and everything that happened, she's one tough cookie.
That's really hard for any one of us to watch, let alone yourself. How do you feel watching that video clip? And please share with us what happened.
Yeah, it never really gets easier, especially hearing some of the commentary from an outside perspective. It really brings you back down to that place. It was September 4th, 2019. We're coming upon almost 5 years. And although the incident changed my life forever, I can stand here today and be thankful that I survived that day, and I'm here to advocate for change, because that is truly what we need. And I woke up that day wanting to serve and protect my community. Honestly, I loved my job. Being a cop was the best thing. And I responded to a 911 call for a fellow mom in need of help. Her son was acting out of control and crazy, and she wanted him removed from the house. So I arrive on scene. And within I believe 17 or 18 seconds, he began attacking me, assaulting me. He did not want to be detained. I just wanted to investigate to see if a crime had occurred. When I arrived on scene, the mom came out following him from the house, and she was holding a knife in her hand. So I believed she was in fear for her life and safety against her own son. So I wanted to, protect the scene, protect her, protect him. And in turn, the suspect assaulted me. We fought for about 2 minutes before that video that we all saw turned on. And yeah, it was pretty harrowing moments. He punched me over and over in the face and the head, nearly rendering me unconscious. And I pulled out my gun as a last ditch effort to try and, get a reasonable person to stop. I did not want to shoot a son in front of his own mom. And I still didn't even know why I was there in the first place, because nobody would relax enough to tell me the circumstances. It just immediately went to an assault. So he was able to overpower me. We fell into the ground, and he took my firearm, put it against my forehead, and pulled the trigger. And by the grace of God, my gun had malfunctioned, which ultimately saved my life, giving me enough time to turn and run for cover. And he shot at my back as I ran away. So, it was obviously the most heartbreaking couple of minutes of my life, but God spared my life for a reason. And I'm here to, use that reason for good and try and change this narrative for everybody else still having to do the job of a cop.
That's right. Well, Meagan, I want to thank you for your service. You are a hero, and there's very few people that have that kind of courage. And, but God does call all of us to have courage, because ultimately we are in his hands. And, I can't even fathom being a young mother. I mean, a mother of young children. My children are grown. My youngest is 22. But when they were little, you have that motherly instinct to want to be here for your children. And you are so brave to have that type of profession, and your heart is to serve the community, to make it a better place, and to keep it safe, to keep us all safe. And so thank you for that. But I see that God has taken you on a different path. And I think this is a very powerful thing, that you are able now to speak out about what is happening, not only in the state of California, because we do here in California set a precedent for the United States. There are many concerns with the high crime. We house 50% of the homelessness in the United States. And it is completely out of control. We are completely out of control here in California. And, a lot of our major cities have turned into what looks like a third world country. And things are turning into a banana republic, meaning, crime is not being punished. There is no accountability any longer. People are allowed to openly do drugs. We've got rampant homelessness, which also we see it incurs mental illness, and the list goes on. And we're going to discuss all of that. You're going to actually expound on all of those points. What is it that you do to advocate? I know you advocate on a national level, but we do speak a lot about what happens here in California.
Yeah, well, I was medically retired for PTSD in March of 2022, and I have been, through the ringer with my mental health. I've had a suicide attempt. I have been in the lowest lows, and I have been now in the highest highs of post-traumatic growth and recovery. And it's been a long 4 years, but now I advocate for mental health and first responders, because it is such an elephant in the room. Men and women that wear the uniform, it's hard to admit that you need help, because you're breaking down that barrier of, when you're called to help someone, how can you help yourself? So I try and advocate, whether it's going around to different conferences, I go to colleges and I speak about mental health, and I just try and be very transparent, because as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, and as a, retired deputy, I feel like there's a lot of areas that still aren't getting the attention and the help they need, including mental health. And, we can look in almost every pocket of California or even across the nation, and mental health is touching all of our communities in one way or another, whether it's drug infested, mental health, or it's lack of resources, mental health, or it's social media driven mental health. Mental health touches all of us. And there is a huge compounding element to that where the whole Minneapolis effect of 2020 with, the defund the police movement has really contributed to that mental health in the first responder field. And honestly, I think across the country, it's just more prevalent in the first responder field because they don't have the ability to be upfront and honest about needing that help. So I just am very fortunate that I've built an amazing little community of people that are just like me, that want help, that need help. And I am fortunate for people like you that are giving me a place to talk about that.
Absolutely. And, for a little while there, I had one of my sons who's now 25. He was a first responder for the fire department. And I worried about him a lot. He would work in the middle of the night, have to be on the side of a freeway, and sometimes in a dangerous situation. And we don't think about that as civilians. We don't think about the dangers that all of you are in. And, when I see them, I say a prayer for them because I know that, they could be walking into a situation that is not good. But I think about the military and what you were saying. I think about our military and how there are rules of engagement. And when we send military or our police or sheriffs out into the line of danger, I'll say, and they're not able to perform their job. I think of the Border Patrol as well. And I am running for Congress in District 25. It's a border district. It goes all the way to the border of Mexico. And so, yeah, whether we're talking about our military, our law enforcement, our Border Patrol, when they're not able to perform the job that they were trained for, what is the message we are sending to them? And that has got to be completely stressful. You're talking about post-traumatic stress when they can't even do their job. And in some instances, they can't even defend their own life. Can you tell us, we've had some recent losses of our deputies. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, just over the last 72 hours, we've had 11 cops shot in the line of duty. 3 paid the ultimate sacrifice, including 2 this morning responding to a domestic violence incident. And unfortunately, they succumbed to their injuries. And a paramedic who was trying to save one of the police officers' lives, he unfortunately paid the ultimate sacrifice. So, police officers are shot every 23 hours, according to the FOP. That's up 60% in our country. They want to report that crime is down, things are, going back to pre-pandemic, but they're not. And it's a false narrative. It is a lie. I have friends that work not just in my old department, but all across the country, and they are feeling the effects. Like you said, the person that tried to take my life was caught on camera doing so. He had 2 full confessions. We had eyewitness statements, and it still was not enough for a jury of my peers. They acquitted him. He was released from custody the day after, and I was re-victimized by the criminal justice system. So we are living in this upside down world where not only are you not allowed to be a cop, like you said, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're derelict in your duty if you don't respond to help someone, but then you help someone and now you're up against criminal charges, losing your job. They want your head on a pedestal. And it's like, I haven't been a cop since 2019, so I cannot even imagine what the world is like now. But I do talk to my husband. He's on this full-time SWAT team for our department, and it's rough. It's really, really rough. And we have elected officials, whether it's the chief of police or it's sheriffs or, people in our jurisdictions that are not standing up for their own people, their own cops. So we have to make a huge systemic change from the very top down because your boots on the ground are feeling the effects of their elected officials not having their backs. And when you are putting out this narrative that you can attack and shoot and kill our cops and you will not be held accountable, that cannot be the status quo. That cannot be accepted.
Right. And there has to be a change, a shift, because I see this in politics too, where people are trying to self-preserve. They want to keep their positions, and it's a very selfish thing. You're no longer serving your community. You're no longer serving the constituents. You're serving yourself. Mm-hmm. And this is not okay. This is not the right, not just attitude, but it's not what you swore an oath to do. And it's, evil, in my opinion. It's evil because it's very selfish, and you are putting other lives in danger by trying to self-preserve and keep your position. So it's time for us to put the people first. This country was founded upon we the people, and we need to get back to that. And the fact that we have lawlessness running rampant, especially in California, policy has everything to do with the effects of what we see day to day. And in California Assembly, conservatives are outnumbered, Republicans are outnumbered, and what we see is the radical left. They're 85% of our assembly in California, making horrific decisions for our state. And the reason I talk about the state of California, obviously you and I live here in Southern California, but they say, so goes California, so goes the nation. And when there are rumors and hints that Governor Newsom, who has destroyed our state, when there's hints and rumors that he wants to serve as president or vice president, this is not an election. This would be a selection. And so we've got to get President Trump back in office, is my personal opinion. He's the only one that is not afraid of the establishment, and he wants to put America first, secure our borders. And that's what I want to do in Congress as well, is secure the borders to save lives. Can you talk about the crime that we are witnessing in California? Again, we house 50% of the homelessness in the whole United States, but we are seeing things like smash and grab crimes. Felonies have been, many felonies have been lowered to misdemeanor crimes. And I think that's so that they can manipulate the numbers and say, oh, well, crime is being lessened, but that is not the case, right, Meagan?
Absolutely. It's all a puppet game. They're trying to control the masses by having these false, fake news. I hate to even say those words, but it's entirely true. I would challenge any one of those people to walk the streets of Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Riverside, anywhere in California, and you're going to see the effects. Mom and pop stores can't even be open anymore because either, they're being robbed to death and they cannot afford it, or the insurance companies refuse to help them anymore. We can really take this back to 9 years ago when Prop 47 went into effect. In all fairness, Governor Brown was the governor and, Newsom was a lieutenant governor, but Prop 47 was a complete Trojan horse that came in, and it had again, false narrative on what it was going to represent. It was labeled as the Safe Neighborhood and School Acts, which couldn't have been further from the truth. I don't even know who was able to label that, because they should be charged with fraud, because that is so far from the truth. Prop 47 went and took property crimes. Anything $950 or less is a misdemeanor. And it took hardcore drug crimes and made them misdemeanors. And in the world of policing, a misdemeanor is a slap on the wrist and a citation, and you're free to leave. It takes the cops longer to write the reports than it does to keep these people in jail. And they don't care. They're not going to show up to court in, 30 days for their court appearance. So you're having this doom loop of repeated crimes. That's why we're seeing so many homeless on the streets. They got rid of drug courts, which was honestly the best thing that California had for these crimes, because the judge was able to say, listen, you're either going to go to jail or you're going to go to rehab. That's it. Not you're going to go on the street or you're going to go on the street, because that's what's happening. So when Prop 47 went into effect, you can almost mirror the retail theft, the property crime, the drug crime, the homelessness. It's parallel. It's exactly parallel. And, people want to complain, which I think is a human right, but complain and do something. So Get out there, canvass with your politicians, sign Kevin Kiley's petition to end Prop 47, get out there and actually make your voice heard. Otherwise, California is going to be a sunken ship.
Not only California, but the country itself.
The country, yeah.
Right. And so, let's talk about what Kevin Kiley is doing. So there was the Prop 47 initiative that you mentioned. And Kevin Kiley, or excuse me, it was Prop 47. But Kevin Kiley has written the initiative to overturn that, and so we we'll put the link there. But it is called what is the link called? It's
I believe it's end47.com.
Okay.
If you Google Kevin Kiley's name, follow him on X or Instagram. It's the link in his bio. That's the easiest way to find it. It takes, 20 seconds to fill out your signature. As of yesterday, there's over 400,000 signatures to get the initiative on the ballot in November. Polls are showing that 90% of Californians want Prop 47 reformed. So
Yes.
that actually is going to take people putting in a little hard work and a little bit of, pen to paper. Put your signature down, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to somebody at the grocery store, get them aware and informed so we can actually advocate to getting our state back.
So we have 400,000 signatures now, but they want 750,000 signatures. So we're a little over the halfway mark, and we've got to get that in very soon here.
Yes.
Because elections are coming up. And so, yes, I want to talk more about what happened to you and that the person who assaulted you. How old was he, by the way?
I want to say at the time of the crime, he was 20 or 21 years old.
Okay. And his case got, what happened to the case?
Well, he was originally charged with 6 felonies, including attempted murder of a police officer, removal of a police officer's firearm, resisting arrest, assault with a deadly weapon causing great bodily injury, and a few others. And he had gun enhancements on a couple of those. So he was looking at like 55 years to life. These were very serious crimes he was charged with. And when the jury deliberated, they found him not guilty of attempted murder, not guilty of assault with a deadly weapon, and they found him guilty of negligent discharge of a firearm, which you can imagine is taking your gun and shooting it into the air. That's basically what they said he did. And they were unable to come to a decision on 3 other charges, so they hung. So ultimately, he got credit for time served, and he was released from custody the following day.
Unbelievable. And this is happening across our state here. You're not an isolated account, obviously. Explain to us about the jurors. I know that, was this a biased jury in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. And it was actually, even to be factual. So Assembly Bill 3070 came into effect the January before we went to trial. And in so many words, Assembly Bill 3070 wanted to include people who had explicit bias towards law enforcement. So when the prosecution or the defense, they have a certain amount of preemptory challenges. So they can go through the jury pool and say, do you have explicit bias towards any ethnicity, race, or gender? And before 3070 went into effect, there was a rule called Batson-Wheeler, which had law enforcement as a protected class. Well, now 3070 got rid of law enforcement being protected. And now if you are a juror who believes that cops are racist, they engage in racial profiling, they have, negative contacts with law enforcement, family with negative contacts, they're giving unintelligent or confused answers, they're falling asleep during court, you're not allowed to excuse them and you're not allowed to disturb them. So my deputy district attorney spoke to the jury foreperson after the acquittal, and she told my attorney that 5 out of 12 jurors had this explicit bias towards me as a cop. Basically, I was cross-examined for 3 days by the defense. I was called horrendous, horrible names, and I was called a racist, and among other things that I'm not going to share because it just doesn't deserve the airtime. But a jury of my peers felt like I staged the whole thing. I made it up. I did it for attention. Just really asinine things where I'm sitting there looking at injuries of my broken, battered face, and I'm pleading to these people, this man tried to murder me, and he's looking at me, smiling and nodding. The suspect is looking at me in court, smiling and nodding. The jury, some of them are sleeping, some of them are, drawing in their notepads, and I'm begging these people, do not let this person out into our community. He only lives 15 minutes away from me. We shop at the same grocery stores. We go to the same parks. It's frightening. And lo and behold, a cop's worst nightmare is one, having your gun used against you, and then the person that tried to kill you be set free. And both those things happened. And that is why I became so invested in trying to reform Assembly Bill 3070. Because like you said, I am not an isolated incident. This is happening to our police officers all across our state, all across our country. We're seeing it in real time. They're being murdered in cold blood for no reason. They're being ambushed. We saw that those NYPD cops that were attacked by illegal immigrants, They had no accountability. They were released from custody. And it's just a horrendous trend that we are seeing for our cops. And we have to take action. And it starts with doing stuff like repealing Prop 47 and starting to take the initiative.
We have to. And, people do need to get out of the delusion that our country is going to just go back to normal. We are heading on speed, on a very fast speed level that we are falling into Marxism. Excuse me for all that. We are snowballing into Marxism very rapidly. And it does start with the education system. I mean, we see that what our education system has produced are people who embrace communism and Marxism, and to create havoc on the streets and chaos, and to the term defunding our police, removing authority, penalizing the taxpayers, and giving allowing the crime to run rampant, and rewarding the criminals. That is part of the Marxist playbook. So, we're seeing this with the open borders. So not only are Americans who, are paying taxes, we are witnessing the lawlessness just amongst Americans, but now they've doubled down and opened our borders. And so now we're having to deal with, criminals from other countries.
Absolutely. And it's a really scary precedent that we have set for our generation and generations to come. I worry every day what type of country is going to be left to my children. I have a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And my daughter, she's 10 now, and she's starting to realize that, things aren't quite right. And of course, I am not going to privy her to the world of politics, but I do think it is important to talk to our kids about the reality of some of these situations. Like when I was a kid, we used to be able to ride our bikes until the streetlights went on. Now I don't even let her to watch the mailbox by herself. This is not a country that feels safe. This is not a country that I want to leave for my children. And unfortunately, people cannot think that these issues don't touch them. For example, Prop 47. Well, I'm not a drug dealer. I'm not in drugs. It doesn't matter to me. Well, the people that are reoffending, breaking into your homes, breaking into your cars are the repeat offenders that start with low-level drugs. We see it every day. There is a direct pattern from drug use to property crime, or even worse, assaultive crime, battery crimes, home invasions, very personal, life-threatening issues. So if we don't start at the very, they want to call it low-level offenses. Well, to me and you, somebody stealing $500 out of my purse is not low-level. That's very damaging. We have to get back to holding criminals accountable, and we have to shift the mindset from, the victim mentality. Well, maybe you shouldn't have worn nice jewelry, or, don't carry a nice purse in downtown LA if you don't want to get robbed. No, how about if you want to rob someone, then you're going to go to prison. So I think we need to get back to the notion of right is right, wrong is wrong, and there's no gray matter. It's black or white.
Right. And, it's just all hypocrisy because, and in my opinion, it's on purpose. But, you look at the Me Too movement that, was a trend a few years ago. When they want to defend women that are on their political left side. But when it comes to, people on the right, it's the opposite. So, we get treated like we are the criminal. Parents that go to school board meetings are now deemed domestic terrorist, and so on. And so, yes, it's time for all of us to rise up and get engaged and get activated as citizens, because we can't leave it to the people that are on the forefront. They are unable to do it alone. We need to do this collectively. And, the sad thing is, until something happens to people personally, then they wake up, then they realize, wow, we are not in a safe community. That was an illusion that I had. And so that's really unfortunate. Can you share with us what you are doing nationwide to get the message across? What is the message that you are getting across?
Well, my hope and my plan is to be able to continue traveling to different law enforcement conferences and speaking in regards to mental health and advocating for those resources. We're trying to get mental health wellness checks instituted in every law enforcement agency, where at least for my agency, every 3 months you would have to go, and it's called trimester training, where you would fire your gun, you would do CPR training, defensive tactics training, whatever it may be. We're trying to institute these wellness checks where every 3 months you're just checked on. It doesn't take a critical incident like a shooting where you are getting the help if you need it. If you decide you don't need it, well, at least somebody is there. And I'm trying to get a few initiatives. I'm going to Sacramento on Tuesday with Assemblyman Bill Asaley and Riverside Sheriff Chad Bianco, Riverside Chief of Police Gonzalez, and a few others. And we're trying to at least get the public safety community to have a back again, get crime under control, get our communities safe. We're introducing a package of 3 bills, Assembly Bill 3037, 3037, 3038, and 3039, which will be putting armed police officers in every school. It'll be removing the anti-police jury bias, which affected me, and in restoring the firearm sentencing enhancement for crime. So we're really hopeful that this will be kind of a turning point for Californians, and hopefully it'll start that, tide pool for the rest of the country.
And while crime is rising, they want to take our guns away. They want to regulate our weapons to defend our homes, to defend our families. And that's a bad combination, because the criminals will always get the guns. And they want to penalize, once again, they want to penalize American tax-paying citizens. And this is the time where we need to be able to defend our homes the most.
Well, it really makes you wonder, like, what's the game plan here? What is the end result? Because, we saw SB2 where for a minute there it was in effect. And then, I think it was the Ninth Circuit came and said, hold on, we need to put an injunction. And I don't remember a time ever in the history of our country where criminals have abided by the laws, hence them being criminals. So if you're going to penalize a person, say at the park or walking their dog on the sidewalk, and they're not able to legally bear arms under the Second Amendment constitutional right, and you want to have them fined and jailed, well, then who is going to protect someone like we saw, the radical transgender individual go into the church in Texas? And if we wouldn't have had, it was 2 off-duty police officers. If they wouldn't have intervened, how many other lives would we have lost? SB2 is going to create that into a landslide effect. I don't know about you, but if I have a Second Amendment right, I'm using it. It's in my diaper bag. So
that's
nobody's
right.
taking that away from me, because I'm going to protect my children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Meagan, it was wonderful to have you. I want to remind the people of how they need to find Kevin Kiley, Congressman Kevin Kiley. He is out of California. He is serving in the House, and go to his website. We will put the link down below. And Meagan, how can the audience follow you and keep up with what you are doing?
Well, I really only have Instagram, so it's my name, Meagan McCarthy, with 2 underscores at the end. It's like a really shameless plug, but I really do pride myself in having a community of people that are very transparent and raw and real about mental health issues. I have people that write me day in and day out. I set my alarm every morning to respond to people that need help. Where it's a scary place to be in, where you feel like you have no one to go to. And people do reach out on social media. That is a blessing there. So if you need help, if you don't want to talk to me, I will point you in the direction of some resources. And I'm very excited for Tuesday. It's definitely the time where we need to get those police unions and people to support our bills, and go and bug PORAC and all of your unions to get behind Assemblyman Asaley and, join our fight to bring back our state.
Yes, definitely. And I want to remind everyone, when you see someone who serves in that capacity, whether it's a deputy sheriff, whether it's a police officer, a frontline worker, fireman, border patrol, please thank them for their service. They need that encouragement. They are human, just like all of us. And, they get all that negativity. And, it is an extremely stressful job. They don't know if they're going to come home, return to their families, after their shift is over. And we need to bless them. We need to encourage them. And, that whole defund the police movement, was meant to, make them all look evil. And that's not the case. the majority of our servicemen are heroes, and we need to treat them as such. And we need to back the blue and support them, whether we are people in office or just part of the community. We need to be behind our servicemen. So, Meagan, thank you so much for joining us. I admire you tremendously. You're a wonderful person, and I look forward to seeing what more you are going to accomplish. We are behind you all the way.
Thank you. And I'm going to, keep my fingers crossed that we get you up there in DC, because we need people like you. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
You too.
This show is brought to you by Ceci Truman.